John, let's mute everybody except you.
All right, hold on. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
That's not it. Look at the names.
Okay, we're live now on Facebook. This is a Local 100 Fightback Coalition live stream. We're very honored to be joined by a number of guests from the bus department, also from stations and from RTO. I'm going to go around and start to introduce people. I know that most of the people watching are probably here because Roberto Martinez sent them a Facebook notification. So I'm going to let him go first if that's okay with y'all. Yeah. All right.
But who got more seniority? Hold on.
He got the most time, right?
No,
Springer has 30. Springer has 30.
Oh, my bad. All right. Well, we'll get to you shortly. I'm going to mute everybody, and I'm just going to introduce Roberto, okay? Okay, Roberto, the floor is yours, man. Tell us about it.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me. For those who don't know, my name is Roberto Martinez. People just call me Rob. I'm a bus operator out of Jackie Gleason Depot. And just trying to rectify this situation here at TA Surface. And a lot of things been happening. I would say the last 6 to 9 years has been going downhill, and it's time to rectify the situation because it's going downhill so fast, it's going to fly off the tracks. So it's time for other people to take control of this train and get this thing right. So,
yeah. And I see you brought some people with you that you are going to try to take over the train with you, huh?
Yeah, we're going to take over the train, bus, wherever we can.
Okay, great. So let's get to, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
But like I said, for those who are working TA Surface, pay attention. This particular regime with JP Patapio and the rest of his team have been really letting us down. They're very selfish and self-centered. And as time goes by, those who don't already see it, we're going to easily expose them. And today, we're going to expose them pretty much.
Yeah, I'm going to set you up for that, by the way, Roberto. So we already planned ahead on that. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that shortly. Absolutely. Okay, but let's introduce everybody first. And I'm going to call on one of the smartest men I know in the Local 100 right now, Mr. Michael Enriquez. I don't know how he does it. Where do you find the spare time to find all this information, Michael?
Oh, man. I don't know. It's just time management. You work on writing up stuff. Usually how I do it is I'll write up all of my material and then I'll schedule my posts. So I'll dedicate one day to just putting together stuff that I think the membership would appreciate. Yeah. And we disseminate that information.
Well, you do a great job because you find stuff I don't even know about, and I try to pride myself on knowing the contract and the law and stuff. You be putting me to shame, so.
Oh, no, it's never about that. Each one teach one.
Absolutely. Anything else you want to do as far as introduction here? You want me to move on to some of your other colleagues here?
For those who don't know me, my name is Michael Enriquez. I'm a bus operator from Kingsbridge Depot and a shop steward with the union. And thank you for having me on.
Oh, you're more than welcome anytime, Michael. Let me just call on Frank DeJesus. Let me give you a chance to introduce yourself. He just friended me on Facebook today, and already he's on my live stream. So that's a vote of confidence for you there, Frank.
Yeah. Up and coming. My name is Frank DeJesus. Out of 100th Street Depot, Tuskegee Airmen Depot. I was invited here by my good friend Michael. I know him a while from working before, and my goal is to organize the membership of the union and militarize them and educate them so that we can start turning the wheel in a different direction than where we are right now. And that's going to take a lot of groundwork and hand-to-hand communication. We got to speak to each other in depots and wherever we are, and continue to educate each other every time we see it, every time we see somebody. So I'm here to do the groundwork.
Okay, let that groundwork begin tonight, right? All right, I'm going to call on Wilfredo Pacheco, who's from MTA Bus. I believe you're working at a Quill now, correct?
No, I work in College Point Depot. That's my home depot.
Oh, okay.
They have this. I pick a run that allows me to drop the bus off over there at Michael J. Quayle Depot. So that's what I do. So I've been my name once again. I'm from MTA Bus, College Point Depot. I've been in the job now for almost 17 years. I'm one of the shop stewards as well, and I was invited by John Ferretti. So I'm just why am I here? I'm here just to teach one, like my brother said, just to piggyback off of everybody, hopefully drop some knowledge to each other, expose, just try to bring to some perspective to a lot of things that's been happening here in the union. A lot of things, the unsafe practices, the rules, the abuse, the just total disregard for our safety, So, we have to come together. We have to come together and just really bring some unity here if we can, and just mobilize and organize, man. Just and that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
It's time to change the scope of things. We need to be strong again. We need to be organized again. We need to not so much be involved with I understand we have to have a relationship with the governor and the mayors, but they need to do for us.
Yeah.
They need to want our vote. And we too friendly with these governors and we just, that's another subject, but I hope we could get into that today, and that's where I'm at right now.
So, Wilfredo, I assume that you're not too much of a fan of bringing our boss to the International Union Convention and passing him off as if he's a friend of ours, right?
He's no friend of ours, man. He's for his own interests.
Yeah.
He's for his own. He has his own agenda,
Yeah.
and that actually, that in order for somebody to be international president, that should be done by the members. That shouldn't be done by an executive board or people go to Las Vegas and you vote. Now, that should be done within all 90-something locals that we have in TW.
Right. And one more thing I would be remiss to announce is that Wilfredo Pacheco has joined the Local 100 Fightback Coalition. Reached out to us and wanted to join our coalition based on the work that we've done. And we'd like to welcome you aboard. I mean, this is quite a baptism by fire for you.
That's right. Yeah, man. I like what you guys are doing over here, man. I've already been to a meetings. I went to a depots with you guys, and it's time for us to do this, man. We need to organize and mobilize. Thanks again, John Ferretti, for bringing me on, and this distinguished panel that we have here. I'm glad to be around you guys.
Well, I'm honored to be here too, and I started this, so I can relate. In any case, I'm going to get to our honored and distinguished shop steward, Mr. Springer, next. How you doing, Ronald?
All right.
I got you, Mike, already. I got you.
You got it? Got everything?
Got you.
All right. Got rid of all my little technical difficulties. All right.
Cool.
Let's get down to business now. Yes, my name is Ronald Springer. I'm a bus operator for New York City Transit for 30-odd more years. My work location is Jackie Gleason Depot, along with Mr. Roberto Martinez. He invited me here today, and let's see what we can do. Can we make a difference? Can we inform these members? I will sure try, like I've been trying.
I know you've been doing that for many years. Roberto speaks very highly of you, so I'm sure we're going to learn something today.
Oh no, well, I'm here to learn myself.
We all learning.
It's a process. Life is learning, stages and levels.
I'm sorry. Speaking of learning, we're going to learn some from Kenneth Murray next. Okay, this man is a revolutionary and a station agent from the stations department. He's a good friend of mine, a member, and done a lot of joint work with us. So Kenneth, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. First of all, I want to take this time out to thank all of those who on May Day went out and did their part, that the revolution continues. It does not stop. My name is Kenneth Murray, and I'm from the Stations Department, and I am not alone. I am with Mr. Staley, Mr. Nunez, Mr. Welcome, Mr. Lawrence, Mr. Blocker, and many others from the Stations Department. We are ready for the revolution. What we ask is that RTO and buses begin the process, and we will follow forth suit. We cannot do it by ourselves because if you notice right now, the buses and the trains are running and the station agents are in a booth with high-paid security guards, point blank. So what we need to do if we're going to move forward is going to be for the buses and RTO to make that move. Okay, once you guys do that, then the Stations Department is right on board with you. I am here for one purpose, and that is to learn. We are from the Stations Department, and the revolution is the only solution. God bless you, and I'm ready to learn. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for being with us, Kenny. We have the distinguished Danny Cruz here for his second Local 100 Fightback live stream. I'm having problems unmuting you. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Danny, how you doing?
Good. How you guys doing?
I'm doing great. It was so good the last time you decided to come back for more, huh?
Yeah, figured might as well make a return visit.
Yo, in the same background too, man.
Hey, got to make sure I got the good space where I could talk and nobody's gonna bother me.
Great. So just introduce yourself to those who don't know. This very distinguished shop steward from buses. Introduce yourself.
My name's Danny Cruz. I work out of Manhattanville Depot. Going on 4 years, coming up in September. And we're here to just learn and keep everybody educated.
Okay, you started this movement with buses. You know that, right?
Yeah.
All these guys wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. You laid the path, man.
I'm glad to start something good, and I'm glad everybody's jumping on board. And that's what we need now. We need everybody on the same page.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna get a chance to Seth to introduce himself now. Seth.
Yeah.
Sorry to keep you silent for so long. I know you get upset about that, but
That's all right. I was manning the comments,
Oh, okay, that's good. I'm glad you were using your time well.
sharing the page. Yeah, Seth Rosenberg. I'm a co-founder of Local 100 Fight Back along with John, a shop steward, socialist and a revolutionary as well. It's nice to see everybody here tonight. It's a distinguished panel, and it means a lot to me to see people from RTO and people from buses getting together and trying to figure out how to fight back during this pandemic. It's clear that the MTA has thrown us to the wolves and that our own union has done the same thing. And so it's nice to see a bunch of activists get together. We can start to organize and do what we have to fight back.
Okay, Seth. All right, so now everybody's introduced themselves. So I just want to throw some food for thought out here regarding things that are going on in our union. And specifically, this is going to frame the discussion regarding our union leadership and what kind of union leadership we actually need to defend ourselves in this period right now. I don't know if you guys seen, but there's a lot of these pictures going around Facebook of cleaners walking around with Governor Cuomo, showing him how they're planning on cleaning the subways, doing the deep cleaning that they're talking about, all the disinfecting they were talking about doing. And as usual, as Kenneth, I'm sure, can tell you about, this is their solution as contractors to steal our jobs. Okay, non-union contractors, a lot of them, brought in to bust our union. And this is their idea of the solution to clean the subways. And of course, I don't know if you've seen, but there's a video online about how they're running through to get the job done when the governor's not there. But when the governor's there, then all of a sudden they're busy running to do the job real quick and get out of the terminal. Also, something that you might not have seen is that there's an ad on ZipRecruiter calling for MTA subway cleaner, non-union subway cleaners. They're calling for $15 an hour. MTA's track and car cleaner, non-union, rotating 8-hour shifts, 24/7 service, power washing experience a plus. This is just some of the disrespect that our union is getting for their great idea of collaborating with Governor Cuomo, the boss, and covering his ass and basically acting as his unpaid public relations reps. And just so you don't think that Utano and company are alone, the other bureaucrats, the other people who are like rats deserting the sinking ship, like Zachary Archidiakono, our train operator chair, are lashing up with somebody in buses who at this point will go unnamed, who put out this Mayday flyer to workers, supposedly, I hope they passed it out somewhere. But in any case, there's all this flowery rhetoric and militant rhetoric about how we won't take it and how we're going to fight for safety and how working people need a bailout and all sorts of stuff. We demand leadership that serves the members, not back channel political connections. They call for canceling rent. All this fire-breathing rhetoric. They didn't show up in Staten Island for Chris Smalls. They didn't show up at any of the protests of workers fighting back, but they got time to lash up behind closed doors and build the next rotten, lying, quote, opposition slate. So I guess if people can raise their hands, I'll call on them so we can begin the discussion about this. So who wants to be first? Just raise your hand for physically. Seth, okay.
Don, can I ask?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I mean, I don't know how many in the audience. We tend to get a lot of people from RTO watching. So, but for my own edification and maybe for the others in RTO watching, I'd like to maybe get a report first from people in buses on what's going on there. Like what are the safety issues? What have people done? I know Michael and Danny helped lead the charge to fight back, but what the union's response has been, Patafio's response, because we've had nothing in RTO, but it would be great to hear what's going on, like what's the first thing, what's going on the ground in buses, I guess.
Okay, so who wants to speak on that first? I'm gonna call on Michael for a minute, okay? And
cool.
Just mute Seth. Go ahead.
Yeah, so particularly in the Department of Buses, we do have very active reps. Like I will give a huge shout out to Donald Yates. He's on the front lines. He's disseminating information to everybody out there. But as we climb up the ladder, and I'm pretty sure it's coming down from the executive leadership, it's kind of disheartening that they're placing this emphasis on employee availability. And they keep coming up with these Band-Aid fixes to address that issue instead of attacking the root cause. The root cause in this particular scenario is that they are unsafe working conditions and they can't guarantee our health, safety, and welfare. And this is what is causing the availability issue. And it appears as though they are going above and beyond to make sure that all the work is getting covered. And, they're dangling the carrot that, if you guys don't come into work, that these ride shares and these school buses are going to come in and replace your work. But we have to take into consideration that ride share contract language has been in there since '99. That was derived in the Willie James era contract. And not once did they try to implement that, or rather, I should say, enforce that contract language throughout the Tucson administration. From what it seems like is that they chose the weakest administration to try to impose that on.
Mm-hmm. I see Wilfredo had his hand up too. Let me just unmute him.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback off of what Michael was saying. We're working under unsafe working conditions, no question about that. You come to work. I just came back because I had the coronavirus. I had the corona, and thank God I put through it. Thank God I fought through it. But there's blood in the hands of this leadership. There's blood in the hands of this governor. There's blood in the hands of the MTA. I guarantee you, if we would have taken more of a proactive approach to bringing PPE into the workstations and allow me to have gloves, allow me to have masks, allow me to have disinfectant wipes to clean my work area. This time and time again, you come into the work area and there's not safety equipment faults. There's not safety equipment for us. And listen, I understand that this is a pandemic. I understand this is an emergency situation, but there needs to be more of a proactive approach with this leadership. And I'm talking about this union leadership. Don't wait for the MTA to give me the equipment. If your members are not receiving equipment and then they're working under unsafe working conditions, well, guess what? We're not supposed to operate this bus. We're not supposed to go out there. And this is as Michael was saying, this has to go from the top down. And apparently, you don't see the union. You don't see the union out there, man. You don't see the union. Yeah, you'll see my section chairman. You'll see my chairman. You'll see the officers, but they could only do but so much in College Point. If they don't have the tools, they don't have the equipment to give out to the members, what are they gonna do?
Yeah.
What are they gonna do? And this has been going on ever since this pandemic has happened. I had the coronavirus. Thank God I came back, man. Thank God we lose a lot of members, man. We over 100 now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who else wants to speak? It's open. It's an open floor. So raise your hand. Okay. Kenneth had his hand up, so I'm going to call on him first, but then we're going to get to other people. Okay, Kenny, what's up?
As I listen to this is the reason why this system needs to be reformed and dismantled. Weak membership will only produce weak union leadership. So we need strong membership that once they get into union leadership, they maintain their honor and their integrity. You see, we can no longer play in the MTA playground. You see, we're playing by their rules, and it's not working. Right now, as we speak, we are at the top of the ladder. We are fighting this on an intellectual level. We're fighting it on that level. The more that they give us the opposition, we go down and down and down that level. We get to a point of revolution. They don't want that. So it is best for them to basically think appropriately, act accordingly before this thing blows up. Because a lot of people have lost loved ones. They have lost loved ones. Determination decides who makes it out of this mess. So we must be determined that we're going to change or dismantle. Bottom line, the only solution is the revolution. Thank you.
Okay, Kenneth. I think, Roberto, did you have your hand up here? You did. Never at a loss for words, are we?
Well, no, listen. Like I said, Michael was talking about how, remember, even though Michael works in OA, he's TA Surface, well, he works in OA garages. So when I speak, I'm going to speak specifically about TA Surface and what is transpiring at my garage, which is Jackie Gleason Depot. As far as the cleaning is concerned, like everything else, they started off well. They brought in some outside contractors, and they started off well. In the front window, they put a date, and they're supposed to be cleaned every 72 hours. There's been a couple of occasions where I get to, when they give me my bus, the date has been more than 72 hours. So they kind of got lax as far as the cleaning of the buses are concerned. So that's the only thing that I could say what's happening in my depot. As far as, like Michael said, Donnie Yates has been hands-on and he's been on top of things. It's the opposite at Gleason. JP, Patafio, Willie Rivera is nowhere to be found, but it's kind of better that way because he really doesn't bring anything positive to the table. Armando supposedly got sick. He had put out a video that he got it, and then about a week later, Springer saw him in the depot walking around without a mask, and the video mysteriously disappeared from social media. So who knows if he got sick or not. If he did, I'm glad he did it. I'm glad he was able to overcome it. If he wasn't sick, then, they're just trying to, I guess, sympathy votes, whatever the case may be. But the union, the so-called union reps have not been at Gleason. They come around only when it's convenient for them, but that's been like that for a long time now.
Roberto, do you mind if I play a video of what it looks like to see the leadership of JP Patafio?
Well, I try not to see him, but go ahead, play it. I need some. I
All
need.
right.
I need some comic relief.
I'm not trying to put you in a bad way.
No. Put him on because
We're going.
Let me explain something to you before you put it on.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Everything with him is scripted. Everything is calculated. When you have a topic that you're passionate about, you get the ideas in your head, and you just come from the heart.
Yeah.
I've seen the video, but after you play it, and then we'll pick it apart when you finish.
Okay. Well, I kind of figured that was going to happen, but let's play the video first.
Sure.
Okay. All right. This is his May Day message. Let me make sure the volume is on first. There he is.
Hello, brothers and sisters. I'm JP Patafio, Vice President of TA Service. Today is May Day, a historical workers' holiday where labor fought for our rights, such as the 8-hour day and the end of child labor. We know there are many issues confronting us each and every day. Not the right PPEs, pay issues, dirty buses, and swing rooms. But I want to talk to you about an important issue confronting Local 100 members, and that's childcare. When this pandemic started, public schools were shut down, and hundreds of our members were suddenly forced with the impossible choice of either taking care of their kids or going to work to provide for them. They couldn't do both. Shortly afterwards, the federal government passed emergency FMLA language, which gave frontline essential workers 12 weeks off at 2/3 pay or a maximum of $200 a day. On April 1st, the MTA put out a memo telling workers how to apply. The Union Hall pushed this because we believed that you were entitled to this benefit. Workers saw some relief. As soon as members applied, the MTA went silent. After weeks of asking about the status of the applications, the MTA decided we were not entitled to it. They claimed we are emergency responders. They destroyed any sense of hope. You should know it's up to the MTA whether or not we get this benefit. They said no, but the fight is not over. We are making the demand loud and clear. This May Day, this is our calling. We demand that the MTA place all members, all workers, into the Emergency Leave Act. We have to be ready to do what workers have done in the past, band together and get the company to bend to our will. Brothers and sisters, we want to hear your stories and why it's vital to get this emergency FMLA. Upload your story today.
Okay, that's about enough for JP. But basically, like, there's all this fire and brimstone when he has power in your department to take action to enforce stop unsafe conditions and to force the bosses to do things they don't want to do, to make them, quote, bend to our will. Have you seen much of that there, Roberto?
No, listen, let me explain something to you. He's talking about contract negotiations and all this stuff, and he's notorious for capitulating in negotiations, giving up, surrendering things that are for the members. And as long as it's in his best interest, then he's willing to sacrifice the members, as long as it's in his best interest. And like I said, he's reading from a script. If he was when you're passionate about something, you don't need a script in front of you. So listen, I've been in Jackie Gleason for 16 years, and from day one, I know he is a BS artist. And anyone that knows him well know he's a BS artist. Right now, he's posturing because he's going to run for president. So what's today? May 3rd, 2020. Put this in your time capsule. He's going to blame the contract on Utano. He's going to blame the handling on this pandemic in Utano, and he's going to use everything possible to use against Utano to make himself look good. So as far as, listen, he's soft and he's weak. They only do safety. They do those comical safety blitzes. They don't utilize it properly. You understand what I'm saying? So you know, if you want to have
Yeah.
Springer chime in after me,
Absolutely.
but like I said, anyone that's listening or anyone that's going to listen in the future, listen, John Paul J.P. Patapio is a con artist, and we have to usurp him, and we have to eradicate TA Surface quickly. So I guess you could pass it to Springer if he wants
Yeah.
to add on.
Yeah. Sure. I'm gonna pass it to Springer. I see Seth has his hand up, but we're gonna go to him next after Springer. Okay. All right.
Yes.
So, Mr. Springer, kick us some knowledge from your experience and what's going on at TA Surface.
TA Surface,
Yeah.
you hear some of the division, alleged division, saying their fights and so forth like that. But like Roberto stated, the 19A, you only got one strategy. You do it all the time, and the Transit Authority knows that. And to do a 19A inspection, you're supposed to be doing that every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's the operator's responsibility. Matter of fact, that's the operator's whole, because if you say 19A, the bus not supposed to go anywhere.
Right.
So why would we choose one given time or alleged contract time to use this 19A? That's what you're supposed to know, and you do every day.
Yeah.
Now, so far as the division as a whole, maybe they're doing the best of their ability. You know, they think they're doing a good job, but they don't want to take no critique for anyone else. Like we stated before we opened up here, we want to learn from each other. There's no learning in TA Surface. He figures he's the designated head, and that's it. And the designated head doesn't have the experience. Let's be realistic. What experience you got? You're in charge of maintenance. You don't know nothing about a nut and bolt. So you're gonna negotiate and do things for the mechanics. You can't do it.
Yeah.
You don't have the skills.
Ronald, let me ask you a question. What about the East New York Depot debacle? Wasn't he, now he's out in the media talking about how he's not going to accept it and it's unsafe and our workers were exposed, but for years now, like, who was in charge of safety? Like, I know Earl Phillips is the head safety officer, but aren't these bus VPs supposed to be doing these safety inspections?
What, with the alleged asbestos?
Yeah, asbestos.
That was contained?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, there was did. Events were clean years ago. And now all of a sudden we're going to bring it up. You know, come on. You can't do something when the Transit Authority do something. Do your job all along.
Right.
And if you were doing your job all along, we wouldn't have to come to a point and point the finger to this one instance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what the union and that's what the safety, and this is what 1.9 in the contract is all about. I deem this unsafe. We're not using that. Mm-hmm. We don't use the language. There's no implication.
Yeah.
And as far as the members, we have to ask the members, what do you want? Right? What do you want? Because they tell them not to listen to us. Right? We don't know, but they don't really know. Do you want to know the whole nuts and bolts of everything? Or you just want to listen and segregate certain people? Mm-hmm. Because they got a long time to go on this job.
Yeah.
And they have a short time, this leadership. But they think that they're leading them the right way. Now, how do you use checks and balances to find out, are you being guided the right way or what somebody's telling you is right? You're supposed to investigate the information yourself. Yeah. I haven't seen that.
Yeah. Well, we need a lot more of that, obviously. I'm going to call Michael Enriquez. Sorry, Seth, this is a bus first kind of thing. Is that okay? Okay. All right. They got the majority. So, Mike, you got the floor, man.
Yeah, just to right after me, we're gonna jump to Frank. I see he got his hand up there. Sorry, Seth. But just to touch on the whole emergency FMLA debacle. So I started this petition to initially when I started it, it was just really to raise awareness because I knew that people would read the letter that I wrote and they would become somewhat educated on the topic because a lot of people were left in the dark. Nobody really knew what was going on. And so, yeah, that petition was started. I have to say, I'm very proud. We have like over 2,500 signatures. And like I said, initially it was started just to serve as like an education mechanism because it would be like an organic effort. People would share it, they would read it, and they would understand what's going on. One thing that I found though is that upon pulling the list, and I brought this to Danny and Frank's attention, only one elected rep signed it. So how in tune and how hard are they truly advocating for this if they can't even put their name onto a petition unless they're placing politics over everything else?
Michael, can you please give the name of the people who did? I mean, because I think it's important to give them credit.
Oh, absolutely. It was actually Raul Lugo that signed the petition, and he's not even in our department.
Me and Raul are paisans. We know each other very well. So yeah,
oh yeah,
I can believe that.
Huge shout out to him. But the good thing is that through it being shared, I mean, it made its way over to our Brooklyn Borough president. He stated, from what I was told through the person that sent it to him, was that he had a particular interest in this. And we all know that this isn't something that we're going to win in a grievance arena. And this goes back to, I don't know if you guys read Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, but one strategy that they speak of there is using the cat's paw. And we all know that we can kick and scream as much as we want as employees of the MTA, and they won't listen to us, but they'll listen to the politicians. Yeah. And if the riders and the community is involved and on board, they'll listen to them too. And that, I feel like that's something that we're lacking as far as like a stronghold with our leadership, is that we don't have these alliances with the community anymore. I don't know if you guys have read In Transit by Joshua B. Freeman, but he speaks about how Quill and company, the way that they organized, they knew that organizing on the job was particularly difficult. So what they would do is they would organize in the community. And that's how they would get other transit workers on board. And that's how they achieved the substantial gains that they've achieved. Mm-hmm. And we can't forget about the riders. We can't forget about the community, because these are people that we serve every day. And it's funny because a lot of people would have thought in 2005 that the public was against the strike, but the majority of the public was actually in favor because they knew what was at stake. And we need to maintain that. We need to get the communities on board. Actually, if memory serves me correct, I remember when Tommy McNally was going on the spree about the Arctics on the, was it the B6 or the B1? B1. Yeah, he reached out to the community, and the community put pressure on the MTA. That councilman put pressure on the MTA, and they stated, as of now, we haven't seen the Arctics. But what was kind of disheartening, because I just started going to the TA Surface Division meetings, and at that meeting, the union was adamant that Arctics are coming. And when we look at it from a short-term point of view, okay, yeah, great, yeah, it's a better bus to drive. But long-term, there are serious pension implications to it. That reduces job counts. I mean, when Darryl Irick was the vice president of the Department of Buses, he was on record saying that 2 articulated buses replaces the need for 3 short buses. So what does that equate to? A loss in job counts down the line. And it's particularly for the MAPSTOA guys, because their pensions aren't guaranteed like the NYSERS pension. They have a privately funded pension. Right. And if you start dwindling down those contributions and not putting up a fight to protect that, you put that pension fund at risk of insolvency.
Yeah. So, Mike, I'm going to go to but before I do, I just want to highlight a point that you made about building alliances with communities. And I just want to talk about why that was that Quill did what he did. Quill did that because he was social, because he was He was anti-capitalist because he understood that we needed to unite all workers, all oppressed people in a common cause to fight for a social program of demands that met the needs of workers. And I know that that Kenneth would be very much in favor of that kind of revolution. But I'm going to go to, and also the Local 100 Fightback Coalition, by the way, has a long history of leading exactly those kind of fights, to fight for jobs, to fight against the attacks on riders by closing station agent booths. And I know Kenneth can testify to all that because we directly stopped the closing of 12 station agent booths. We directly stopped the elimination of elevator operator jobs in Upper Manhattan. So these are small examples that even a little bit of doing that goes a long way. But I'm gonna call him Frank now. Sorry to bogart you, Frank.
Nah, it's all good, John. You actually like segued me right where I wanted to go.
I'm getting good at this thing, yeah.
Yeah. There is a big problem with the culture within our union. The culture within our union seems to be that you go into union to get off the bus so that you don't have to do the actual work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what has our union crippled, because
Mm-hmm.
it does not matter who the boss is. It could be Utano, it could be the next one, it could be the next one.
Mm-hmm.
If we stand strong in the depots, they have to do what we say.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine a strong membership in a depot and one of these vice presidents coming into our depot selling us some bullshit. It wouldn't rock. They would get voted out right away. So the strategy seems to be keep them uneducated, keep them not knowing. Don't give them the new bulletin. Don't give them the new memorandum. Don't let them understand the rules so that they need us so desperately. And when they come to us, we're just gonna give them crumbs. We'll fix it for them. We're not gonna explain why this happened or why this happened. I see it every day. You know, you walk into a union office nowadays, or I guess I don't know no better, but I grew up in a union family, and there's nothing more important than a worker. The most valuable thing in the world is a worker, more than diamonds. Without a worker, you can't make a diamond. You can't put it together. Or gold, you can't dig up gold. It's to a point where you walk into a union office and you're scared to ask for a day off. You don't feel that they're there to help you, and it's horrible. You know, just recently, Michael had told me, "Yo, I think that we should fill out IOD forms. You know, when people come back positive." So I'm in the swing room, telling people like, "Yo, you came back positive. Let's do this. Let's do this IOD form. Let's go." Because this is something the MTA was very neglectful in how they treated us.
Mm-hmm.
This I'm pretty sure is gonna go to court in a year or two. You know, it's gonna go, and maybe they'll be able to backtrack whoever has circled no on that sick leave form. But for those who circled yes, they're gonna be on the front line, and they're gonna be the ones that led this battle, because we have over 100 people, 100 workers that have died. Mm-hmm. And that, it brings me to JP, because I got a call the day before that video came out saying that JP said that they was gonna stop the buses. I don't know for how long. And I said, whoa, let's do it. At the end of the video, you cut it off. The job action that was called for was to honk your horn. I'm tired of honking my horn. I got brothers and sisters who have died, bro. And I'm not honking my horn. I will call it personal. Let's jive. You want to do a job? You want to do something? Let's call it personal. Everybody call it personal in one day. That's something that we can do and not get in trouble for. You know, like this is ridiculous. The laxness that the union has taken. There's no fighting words. One member was too much. You know, I know a line trainer, somebody who taught me the line, passed away. That one hurt. You know what I mean? Like that one hurt more than others. It's crazy the culture that we have here. And what the strategy is, educate the members. That's my thing. I go into the depot, whatever I learned from my brothers, Danny and Michael, because those are the guys that I came in here with. Whatever they send my way, I'm preaching it at the depot the next day. And and who fights me? Not management. While I was doing the IOD for him, I explained to the dispatcher why I was doing it. He said, no, you don't have to do it. I said, this is why we have to do it. And he sat back and let me do what I was doing. The union came and said, no, we don't need that type of paperwork right now. Who told you to do that? Da, da, da. And it's on a live video. Donnie Yates told me, told anybody who is on these videos daily and putting out information and actually doing real union work of organizing the members would have known that this is what we're supposed to be doing right now. But that message did not get to the depot.
Yeah.
To this day, right now, I believe they're not filling out IOD forms. Yeah. The only ones done are the ones that I put through. They're fighting me on it. And it's messed up that I'm getting more pushback from the union than from management.
Yeah.
Well, something's got to change. And I'll leave it at that.
Frank, in all honesty, we have to start getting to the point where we could tell the difference between union and management right now. And they're really on the same team. It's unbelievable. In our department, in RTO, we actually had our vice president rip into his own elected officers, telling them, what are you doing telling members to fill out IOD paperwork, even just for the record? All you're doing is giving our reps more work. That was his office. This is somebody who's supposed to be leading the whole department.
What kind of strategy? They don't have no strategy. They react to everything. It's a reaction. Yeah. You know, if you plan ahead, they say the best defense is an offense. Yeah. You know, like if you management is, especially during this pandemic, I'm sorry, they have not played, what do they call it? When you're negotiating, they're not negotiating in good terms. Yeah. From the very beginning, when we said we wanted, what are we, scientists? We said, no, we want masks. They said, that's not part of your uniform. Mm-hmm. Don't do it. You're going to scare the public. We're screaming, we want masks. People started dying. We're up to, like I said, we're up to 100+ people who have died. Yeah. There's blood. There's plenty blood to go on a lot of people's hands. Yeah. From management to union people to a lot of people. Something got to be done.
I appreciate you guys having free reign here from buses, but we got to get Seth in here somehow.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna call on him now. Okay. Let's see. All right, Seth. RTO in the house. Represent, man.
Yeah, great. I just want to say, great discussion so far. I appreciate the info about what's going on in buses and what's going on with how the MTA is acting. I appreciate like we have the same feeling in RTO that the MTA has blood on their hands. Like we've been trying to get that message out to the press, to the public, that and masks is one thing, and Foy tried to hide behind that with the CDC stuff. We all know that's BS because the CDC didn't say stop people from wearing masks if they wear, if they want to wear them. But issues of basic, sanitation, like I'm sure the buses are similar, like probably 10, 12, 15 people use the same operating position each day on the trains. And on March 17th, I said to my superintendent, I said, I need stuff to clean my position. This is how the virus spreads on surfaces. And the guy was like, no, you got to bring your own stuff. I said, it's not my train, it's your train. And he's like, nope, you got to take care of it yourself. I said, we're going to get sick and everyone's going to get sick and be off work and die. And he was like, well, talk to your union. I can't do anything. That's Superintendent Solomon's on the B and the D line, right? I warned him. I brought up a number of issues, and I hate to say it, that it brings me no joy to say that I was correct. It spread through our population like wildfire. So we have the same, some of us call the MTA and Foy and Feinberg murderers. Other people say in Cuomo, they have blood on their hands, right? But the point I want to make to sort of tie it all together with respect to the union leadership as well is that what we know is that Cuomo gave the order for the trains to keep and the buses to keep running. There was absolutely not that service was going to stop, right? And so that order went to Foy and Feinberg, and it went to Utano, and it went to our RTO VP, and it went to Patafio. And like people said, the union acted with management to make sure that we kept coming to work, right? It was a partnership to keep us from coming to work, even though we were getting sick, right? And that's my thought, right? That I want to connect up is that we know for years that our union strategy has been to tie itself to Cuomo under Samuelson and then under Utano. And if you want to stay with them in the union hall and you want to be protected and run with them and get off the buses and off the road, you got to tie that party, you got to follow that party line. And so none of our union officers in RTO, and not Utano and not the top four, and it seems like barely anyone in buses, was willing to stand up and say, this is wrong. These workers are getting sick and dying. We need to shut the system down. Or if you don't have the proper PPE or the sanitizing stuff to keep us safe at that location, then it shuts down there until you get it, right? That just did not happen. It happened in Detroit, right? And I'm not even talking like people are raising a straw man in my argument. They're saying we can't strike. I'm like, I'm not talking about a strike. That's what they did in Detroit. They walked off, but they don't even have to do that. If the union officers were to come out to any location where people were getting sick and say, if you don't have the proper safety measures in place, this place shuts down until you get them, that's within the contract. They can do that. But it simply was not done because they take their marching orders from Cuomo. We saw it on Tier 6. We saw it on the last contract, right? And so we have a union that's compromised, a union that works for Cuomo. And, I'm glad that Michael brought up the thing about the petition, because the thing you guys need to know in buses is that Jose is the only officer like down at the union hall who's not following Utano's marching orders. Eric Logel, our RTO VP, he's been silent as a mouse, right?
Raul, right? Raul.
Did I say Jose?
I think you said Jose.
I apologize. That's incorrect.
The record.
Jose Lugo is a train upper officer, but I meant to say, sorry, it's been obviously a stressful time for us all. I'm tired. Raul Lugo is conductor chair, and he has not been following the marching orders from Eric Logel or from Utano. He and John went out and did safety inspections themselves, right? So it's no coincidence that he's the one who signed the petition. I'm sure Utano and Eric Logel have given orders and Patafio not to participate in any of this stuff, right? But Raul isn't playing that game, and kudos for him for doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seth, we got Michael over here with his hand up, and I got Frank with his hand up. So
all right, let me make one quick point, and then I'm out. Okay. I wanted to read something. I don't know if you guys all saw the article about in the Daily News about transit workers dying in record numbers, and I was shocked when I saw it because not a single officer in there said the reason why we're dying in record numbers is because we're getting sick in record numbers because the MTA didn't protect us, right? This is Patafio's quote from that. He said this. He said, JP Patafio, head of buses, said several bus operators who died from COVID-19 had health issues like diabetes and hypertension, right? You got to separate the healthy from the unhealthy, the vulnerable from the less vulnerable, said Patafio. The MTA needs a health expert who knows what they're doing and who doesn't take orders from the people in labor relations. Seriously, what the hell, right? It's exactly like Utano said with a track worker. He said, well, he's a big guy. They're blaming us for our deaths. And not one of them said this is the MTA's fault, right? And if transit workers aren't outraged that our own union officers are hanging us out to dry and blaming us for getting sick and dying, then I don't know what.
Okay. Quick question. Which one do you want to go first? Mike, you want to go first or Frank? I see Frank is really serious. So I'm gonna go with Frank. Okay. I got you, bro. I got you, Mike.
Thank you, bro. Just because I'm gonna be short with it. Two points that I want to respond to Seth about is one of them about the VPs and everybody staying silent and not wanting to go against the union leadership and Cuomo. This goes down to, it goes deep into the union. Me studying the shop steward book and then getting into the bylaws, one of the main things that it says is that if you go against anything that they say, they have the power to remove you without a trial. You know, just like that. You know, if you mention, yo, let's go on strike without approval from the union, they could just get rid of you. Mm-hmm. This is counterintuitive. It doesn't make any sense. We're supposed to have that anger in our hearts and that roar to say things like this, whether we mean them or not, or if they're possible or not. We need to give the MTA something to fear, and they don't fear us at all.
Yeah.
The second thing
you said
was the second thing was shit, I forgot. But that was one of the main things there. And I'll get back to it, man.
We got plenty of time to talk. We got plenty of time to talk. Nobody going anywhere just yet, but we got to get Mikey in here. All right. Is it okay if we call you Mikey, or is that a problem?
I got it real quick.
All
right.
Sorry.
I mentioned the horn, that they honked the horn as a protest. A way better thing to do would have been, first of all, plan. You know, everybody knows May Day is on May 1st of every year.
Yeah.
Rally in front of each depot, in front of each station. A rally, you know, the picket signs and everything. Mm-hmm. Just, you know, your union guys, put them outside, have them hand every operator a sign. Yeah. And that'll get noticed. Honk your horn. That's the best you could do. I'm good with that now.
Okay, Frank, one thing though, I want to give you union leadership credit and have an honest record of their history. They did plan a rally at Costco.
I'm not talking about Costco, bro.
No, they were brolic, man. They were going to go in large numbers.
I thought you were serious for a minute.
No, I'm messing with you, man. I'm just, you know, but
Come on, Costco's, man. Like, as soon as they denied us as essential workers, I crossed them out my list. There's plenty places to go shop. You know what I mean? We don't need a rally for Costco's. We need a rally for our members who have fallen.
Absolutely. All right, Mike, you're on deck here. Let's go.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate on the fact as to why we were asking people to fill out the IOD forms. It's not because we're trying to get people out on workers' compensation en masse. I did a little research, and legal has this record retention manual. And legally, they're only required to retain attendance records for 6 years. However, if an employee fills out an IOD form, if memory serves me correct, they are required to keep that on file for at least 30 years. So what had happened, if we go back into history, and Donald Yates brought up this point, was that 9/11 came around, and 8-10 years after the fact, people were developing these issues, and they were asking the employer, the MTA, for these records, and they gave them a really hard time. So utilizing that piece of information, that's why we want people to fill out these IOD forms for record keeping purposes, because legally they are to keep those records on file for a longer time frame than they are attendance records. And this kind of serves as a member's recourse should there be an occupational illness claim down the line. And a lot of medical professionals are predicting that there are going to be underlying long-term issues associated with those who get infected with this virus.
Okay, Ronald had his hand up, Roberto. I'm going to get to you, okay? Let me just unmute Ronald Springer. Hey, Ronald, you got the floor?
Yes, on the issue saying about going to the community. When I took the shop steward class, that was one of the main points. You go out to the community, community board meetings and you discuss issues and you bring it and get them on your side. So I don't know what happened with leaderships, if it fell off or anything like that, but that's what they were teaching. And at that present time, the teacher was Eddie K. And he foretold all this that's going on now. You have to go out to the community to organize. And the ones that are at the hall now, they know that, but they're not practicing it.
Mhm. Absolutely.
All right, you can go to Roberto.
You go to Roberto? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
I just want to finish up that point.
No, it's no problem. You got as much time as you want. Just raise your
All
hand.
right.
Okay?
All right.
All right. Okay, Roberto, you got the floor, man.
I just want to touch on what Frank said earlier about the reps who basically get into these positions to avoid going to their tools. That's 100% correct. They will. I'll give you an example. JP and his ilk, they would run over a family member with the bus in order not to drive that bus in passenger service. I think that when you hold these positions, you should take, like, it's like a 19A, like a refresher course. You should do your tools sometime during your tenure. Example, they want to make decisions on 19A, yet, they want to make decisions pertaining to Vision Zero, but they haven't driven under Vision Zero conditions. They want to make decisions about articulated buses, yet they have never driven an articulated bus. They want to make decisions in reference to uniform. They do not utilize a uniform. So as far as them not being in the not running for these positions to avoid their tools, that's correct. Also, the job action. He talked about job action. Listen, first of all, they're not going to broadcast a legitimate job action. There has to be something clandestine. But these guys are too soft and weak to do a job action. They are soft and weak. The perfect time to do a job action was when we were reporting to these depots and they didn't have the masks and they didn't have the tools. On May 15th, the Daily News put out an article, First Transit Worker Infected with Coronavirus. What was the answer from the transit authority on March 15th? I'm sorry about that. On March 15th, the Daily News put out an article that the first transit worker contracted the virus. On the next following day, March 16th, they put out the no wear mask. You could get punished for doing masks and so on and so forth, right? We would not be in violation of the Taylor law if it comes to our safety. Michael Enriquez, me and him talked about it. We wouldn't be going to OSHA, we'll be under PESH, right? If we take a job action as far as a contract negotiation, or if someone got disciplined and then we retaliate with a job action, then we would be subject to the Taylor law. But as far as our health and safety, we cannot be disciplined for taking our own safety at hand. And last thing, two things real quick. JP sold out the members. Listen, two people in my depot died: Miguel Chupita and Ernesto Hernandez, two of my close personal friends, right? JP making that statement, blaming the operators about the health condition, that was nefarious. That was low, disgusting, vile. I equate that to when Utano, who was a big guy himself, said, I think his name was St. Clair, the gentleman that passed. What was his name? Huh?
His name was St. Clair.
St. Clair. When he passed, he said that his health and his weight contribute to it. So that statement by JP is low and vile. And the last thing that Frank said about the tooting the horn, listen, the other day, Friday, JP comes up to the crew room. Everybody come downstairs. There's a caravan passing in front of the depot, beeping their horns, thanking us. Listen, if I could go on the BQE and hear plenty of people beeping their horns. Right? The Empire State Building lit up blue. Yo, how does that help us? Those things do not help us at all. You know, those things are nice, but show us with action. So I just want to touch on those things. And
okay.
You take it from there.
Thank you. All right, I see Michael's hand up, but does anybody who hasn't spoken in a while want to speak? Danny, what about you? Or Wilfredo? Dan, okay, I'm going to go with Danny and then Wilfredo, you want to speak? Okay. All right. So we're gonna go to Danny first, and then Wilfredo, and then we're gonna get to Mike. Okay.
I just want to touch up on what Frank said. At least in my location, when it comes to a union office, you pretty much don't even want to walk in there. You'll sooner grab your phone and reach out to another member who is informed. My phone's going off all day long. Like my wife's ready to throw my phone out the window. But I tell her how important this is because people rely on the information that I can relate to them because they don't trust the word that might come out of a specific union rep. Or we might go to one rep and he'll tell us to do this. We'll go to the next rep and he'll contradict what that rep just said. So how are you guys in office for the members, but yet you can't work together or at least have the same answer? Like that is nerve-wracking. So we rely on each other. And that's part of the reason why I even started the new group. We started the new group, TA and MAPS United, is to bring in station, RTO, MOW, everybody in one place where it's like, we know what's going on in every department. I put out the memo. We saw the memo about station agents, their suspension of AVAs. Like, who does that? Like, what other department down the line is going to, are we next in buses? Are they going to suspend our AVAs? We don't know because we're so out of touch. They keep our departments so divided to not keep us working together. So that way we go against each other. It can't be that way. Moving forward, we have to come together. Every department needs to say, you know what? If we need to call that personal, like Frank suggested, it should just be, you know what? RTO needs to call that personal at the same time Surface is calling. Stations need to get out of the booth. Cleaners, you know what? Stop cleaning. We all need to be on the same page. Yeah. Now, I've been told a lot social media out of my reps, they're very old school, that social media is not the best way of communication. Not everything we see is real or whatever. We don't put information out there unless we verify it. And there was one thing I've ever put out, and the minute I found out it wasn't true, I automatically made a statement about it. But since then, I learned my lesson. Verify everything before I put it out. And if I don't release it. But the reps are so out of touch with social media and trying to reach the members. They still want to keep it to swing room talks. Yeah. You can reach so many people using the platform of Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. It's so quick. As bus operators, occasionally now on a Sunday schedule, when we get to the end of the line, sometimes we only have 7 minutes to literally stop the bus, go to the restroom, get back on. In those 7 minutes, we get on the phone and we know what's going on. Yeah. Instead of waiting 3 hours before or 4 hours before we go back to the swing room.
Yeah. Before I pass it to Mike, before I pass it to Wilfredo, I'm sorry. I just wanted to put out there that we're going to be raising motions regarding union meetings. Union meetings need to be held on social media. Yeah. What are you all talking about? You want to live in the Stone Age and be the Flintstones? What kind of garbage is that? Our members are dying. We're not going to have union meetings forever. Are these people out of their minds? So in any case, I'm going to go to Wilfredo.
Just to speak about the union meetings, I'm going to actually be writing a letter to Latanya Chris Charay requesting that I receive credit for March, April, and May. So I think that everyone should follow suit and do that. Mm-hmm. But just going back to, we speaking about a lot about what's happening with our union reps, what's happening in the job. We need to really, and I know this is redundant, I know we speak about this a lot, but we need to go out and speak to the members, because in order for this change that we are adamant about doing, we have to come out and go out to the members. I'm talking about an OA and TA. I'm talking about, and what's going to happen with that is that we're going to get from the Stand United group, we're going to get resistance. They're going to tell us to get out of our depot. We don't belong there, like what happened in Michael J. Quayle. Yep. They're going to tell us it's going to be some craziness that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I just really, I really want to know what's going to happen with this, because another thing I wanted to bring up, we have an antiquated voting process. The voting process here in this union is crazy. It's ridiculous. Right. So how are we going to bring change to a local when all they do is focus on OA, for example, Mop Store, Donald Yates, who's very knowledgeable, who I respect highly. He breaks it down. I speak to him a lot, and we have a respect factor here. But let me tell you something. He got numbers, and let me tell you something. What the Stand United does is that they focus on one division. They get the 7,000 members in one certain division, and that's it. They go right back in there. So listen, I don't know what we're gonna do, but I know we need to change the voting process, and we have time to do something. I understand that Lee Ireland is putting something together to bring that change in Local 100. And I don't agree with everything that everybody does, but when you want to bring something of that magnitude, like the voting process to change, I think that we need to sit down and try to bring up and try to do this and bring that to fruition. We need to change the voting process of Local 100, brothers, if we want change to happen in 2021, 2022. Point blank, hands down.
Understood. Let me get to Michael, who had his hand up for a while. Sorry about that, Mike.
No problem. Just to touch back on what Rob was speaking about as far as like a job action. Like how he mentioned, we fall under the scope of PESH. So within PESH, there's the general duty clause, and anybody, any and everyone here, I'm pretty sure to say, would have found that there is a reasonable threat of death of reporting to work. Granted, the numbers of the amount of members that have passed away in such a short time frame. So it's a general principle in the labor industry that an employee has a right to refuse unsafe work. And just the fact that they are not able to control this hazard unless they were pushed. They were very reactive in implementing any changes. The rear door boarding policy only came to fruition after I had begun cordoning off the seats behind the operator. And Frank was there to attest to it. He was there on his day off, actually, which I have to give credit to him. I'm pretty sure he didn't even know what he was walking into because he just went to get an oil change on his car. But he just so happened to run into me and he was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, they put out this rule." I had posted it in various of the pages where they were talking about, oh, we need to practice social distancing. Ain't no social distancing happening on the buses unless we facilitate it. And initially it had started with me just lifting up the wheelchair seats, but people will just throw them right back down and sit down. So the following day, we stepped it up. I'm sure a lot of you seen the post where I had the seat right behind the operator seat cordoned off, and much to my surprise, nobody really said anything as far as like for management, because the thing is that they're equally scared. They're equally as scared, as tough as some may want to appear to be. The thing that kills me most with the culture is that you'll have some overzealous supervisors, but then when it comes time to take initiative, they all go and they tuck their tail between their legs. And I'll just leave it at that. But there was various rank and file efforts that forced both the MTA and the union's hand. Rob and Trammell, they exploited the pandemic policy, which in fact indicated that a lot of operating titles fall under medium risk categories. And within that pandemic policy, all of that was pretty much the guidance from publications that OSHA had put out there. So being that we were considered medium risk, they are supposed to provide you with an N95 respirator. They are supposed to provide you with surface wipes. They are supposed to provide you with gloves. They are supposed to provide you with hand sanitizer. Yeah. So these aren't things that we weren't that we should have been begging for to begin with. And what I find very disheartening, and I'm sure Rob knows what I'm talking about, the union actually had put out a little publication stating that the MTA will not provide PPE. we must provide it ourselves. But meanwhile, we have this policy instruction written by the MTA stating that they are to hand these out to the employees.
Yeah.
And, you know, this would have definitely curtailed a lot of the deaths that we've seen. It's very disheartening, very disheartening.
Mike, not bad for a bunch of keyboard gangsters, right?
Yeah.
We're all on social media. We don't know nothing. We don't represent anybody. We don't do the work. Oh, we don't know what's going on behind closed doors, behind the scenes. They're just working tirelessly. Well, how come all the results came from the people who ain't elected? The people who supposedly don't know nothing, right?
It's I'm very fortunate to have a lot of people that were on the job prior to, and they've since retired, and they have been mentoring me, and I am eternally grateful for that. And one thing that one of my mentors had told me was that the tools might change, but the principles are the same.
Mm-hmm.
So what may have worked in the past, we're in a new generation now. And that's not to discredit we always need to be hands-on in the field. Yeah. But right now, the way to effectively disseminate information, like on the fly, is through social media. Yeah. And, you know, people, I feel like they don't give us enough credit. Yeah. As far as like the membership. We're not as dumb as they make us out to be. People know how to filter information. They know how to say, okay, that sounds right. That doesn't sound right. So go ahead.
Sorry, Mike, if you think about it, the way they think about the membership is the same way the bosses think about the membership. That we're stupid and not much can be expected of us, and that, you know, we're not that educated and we don't know anything, and they just need to get orders and follow orders. And the bureaucrats think the same way, you know.
Absolutely.
But Kenneth has his hand up, and I promised to call him a while ago. I see you, Ronald, and I see you, Seth. Okay, so let's go with Kenneth.
Okay, as we all know, they're going to have a shutdown next week between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. Driving that bus, if they close the actual system from that time, the buses are going to get overcrowded. Okay, can you bus drivers let the members and also the riding public know, is there going to be a percentage of people coming on the bus and then you close your door? Because social distancing at this particular point will be mute. Because if the trains aren't running, the buses will be packed. Have you heard that they're going to put more buses on the line? I mean, what's going on?
Okay, I know that Ronald had his hand up, so let me get to Ronald. Go ahead.
But I'm gonna have to leave the group right now.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Well, did you have anything to say on the way out the door, though?
Oh, it was very interesting, and I'm very happy and that you welcomed me on, and I hope to be a part of it again.
Okay, great.
Thank you, everyone. All right, everyone, have a nice night.
Really appreciate it. Okay, I see Roberto had his hand up too. Good. I see you, Seth.
To answer Kenneth's question, I heard that they're either going to double up on the Hawks, or they're going to implement some form of shuttle. I heard that today. I spoke with a supervisor, because remember, this thing is not, I'm not at, we're at war, but we're not at war. It's prudent to have an amicable working relationship with these bosses. And fortunately, through my brother's tenure, 32 years, and through my tenure, I've attained a lot of friends in this business. And to answer Kenneth's question, they're either going to double up on the Hawks or they're going to implement shuttle buses. We should hear something about that this week. But like Michael said, and like you alluded to, those of us that are not elected are putting more work in than the elected officers. And Michael was being a little humble, because when he did that little cording off the back, he forgot to mention that the next day, the so-called union took his picture and utilized it and tried to take credit for it. Michael didn't mention that part. He's a humble young man. But I told you in private, I only have maybe 5 to 8 years left, but with guys like Michael, with Danny, and all these up and comers, and you got Nassar and my depot, or we call them Nas. If the union happens to fall in their hands, or they're going to take it, I see positive things for this future. So double up on the Hawks or shuttle. We'll know probably by Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay. Seth had his hand up. I'm going to get to you, Danny. I see you.
Yeah. A couple things I wanted to comment on the union meetings. Yeah, we're going to be pushing on that. I think it's disgraceful that we've gone months now and there's not been a word from our leaders. Unions are democratic organizations. They only function if the democratic process is going on, the executive board and the division and the sectional meetings, right? We know our union leaders don't want to address this issue because they sat by and watched when 100 of us died. Imagine what the union meetings are going to be like when they start going, right? People are angry and they have a right to be angry. Our union was MIA, right? But we have to push on this, right? This is our basic democratic rights as union members. We pay dues. We have a right to have meetings where we can discuss things with our officers and hold votes. And so that's something we're going to be pushing on. And that idea was developed, I think we got it primarily from Chicago transit workers. So I want to give a shout out to Eric Slater, and who's a bus operator in Chicago, and Eric Basier, who's Eric, I believe, is a train operator, right?
Train operator, yeah.
Yeah. So, this collaboration between transit workers and other essential workers around the country has borne some fruit. So we're going to be pushing on that idea here. They're already pushing on it in Chicago. I also wanted to, an issue, come back to it, is that, to agree with John, Local 100 Fightback has been, pushing hard. One of our founding principles is on not just issues for transit workers, but building solidarity with the working class community around the city and around the country. And so, for example, when Cuomo's or the MTA's plan backed by Cuomo to put 500 new cops out, we didn't think that was a good idea for a number of reasons. That was coming out of our operating budget, and it wasn't going to really solve the problem. I went to meetings and joined up with the people from the Riders Alliance who were coming out against that plan as well. Also, with respect to closing booths and on the contract, we've always been trying to build an alliance of transit workers and transit riders. And I think we're the only ones who are really trying to do that on the ground. So I'm very proud of that work. And finally, I just wanted to say, a shout out to Michael and to Danny for the work that they did with respect to, forcing rear door boarding. We wrote a letter to the MTA in March or maybe early April, trying to get them to isolate our operating cars. And they refused to do that. I took Foy to task on the Brian Lair show on WNYC about that. And he was like, well, if you close down cars, the remaining cars are going to be too crowded. And I said, okay, well, then you need to only have credentialed workers who have ID proving that they're essential workers allowed in the system. You need to regulate who comes in and who doesn't. And he didn't have an answer to that, right? So we're fighting these fights still. And with respect to the MTA not knowing what they're doing, I work on the G line. Literally, when I came back to work, they didn't have an office train the first day I came back. I said, if you don't get an office train out here, I'm shutting the terminal down, right? They got one out there in 20 minutes. And then a couple days later, I was looking at stuff, trying to figure out what to work on. So, this is 5 or 6 weeks into the pandemic. They didn't have a social distancing plan for our crew room. They were just letting people jam in there. And I said, you need to put tape out. You need to show people where to sit. And I kid you not, this was their plan. They came up with a plan where they put tape out along this long table. It was 6 feet along the table, but then people are sitting across from each other about 2.5 feet, breathing in each other's face. Right? This is the MTA that we work for. They don't have a clue on how to keep us safe. If they cared about us, they would go to the experts and figure this out, but they're fine with letting us die. So I literally had to draw a diagram and send it to my superintendents and say, you can't do it. You have to have it staggered. A person here, a person there, a person there, like leapfrog. Mm-hmm. Like, this is what it's come to. They care so little about us that they'll just do the minimum and let it go.
Yeah. All right, Seth, I'm going to go to Danny, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, I think you're unmuted. Danny, you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
All right, so just to touch up on that closure from 1 to 5, from what I noticed and what I read so far is that they're going to be shutting it down, but the trains are still going to be running. So if you're an MTA employee and you're on the platform, the train will actually stop for you. If you're the running light, I believe, as you guys call it as well. But they're supposed to stop to pick up transit cops and any MTA employee to take them where they want to go. So at least that's a plus. But on the same note, they tell us in buses, they make an announcement overhead, 30 people, call console, let them know that you have an excess amount of people. Now it's unsafe. But when you actually hit that button and you tell them, hey, I got 35 people on my bus, they tell us, well, you know what? That's the passengers. Let them deal with it. You keep driving.
Wow.
So like, it's up to the operators. And this is why we keep pushing. Frank, Mikey, me, Roberto, any operator who's out there for the members' safety, we keep telling them, you as the operator have to make the judgment call of, you know what? I'm going to not stop at this stop because there's way too many people that are going to try to get on this bus. It's my safety, and I'm going to hold it by that. The state set up a social distancing, a certain amount of people. So if you feel as an operator that you're going to go above that, keep it moving. There is no superintendents out here for what, that I've noticed. There's nobody out here for us. They're all not in the field. Yeah. So nobody's going to get in trouble. And even if they do make a complaint, guess what? I should be okay because my safety comes first. I'll defend that complaint. I'll defend my safety, and we'll take it up the chain of command until it gets squashed. It's up to the operators to do that.
Okay.
I just wanted one last thing to touch up on Roberto's with the collage and the union taking credit on the collage that we, Mikey, myself, Frank, we all did with the real doorboarding. That's actually part of the reason why most of our images are watermarked now. If you notice, most of the images that we put out have a watermark saying that it's coming from our group. Because if they're going to take it, you know what? You need to give us credit. You need to say, you know what? These are the guys or these are the operators or members who stepped up and did it.
Yeah.
Not just come in and post our picture and say, you know what? This is what we're doing.
Right. I see Seth's hand up, and I think Wilfredo also had his hand up. Is that right? Okay, I just want to get in here quickly, and then I'll let you all, rock, okay? As far as the homeless situation, this crackpot solution they came up with, right, is really the worst of all worlds, because what they're going to do is they're going to use the police to remove the homeless from the subway physically, which is going to lead to God knows how many unintended consequences. Then the potential for them to be piled on your bus, and now the problem becomes yours. And on the midnights to begin with, the service is very inadequate. I mean, a lot of places, you're talking about 20-minute gaps and stuff like that in some areas. Some people are in two-fare zones. It's very hard for working class people to get to work, who are nurses, who are office workers. I mean, real essential people that actually do work in the city are going to be unnecessarily attacked by this. And fundamentally, it's to continue to allow the city and the state to do nothing about this crisis. We all know that there are more vacant housing apartments and rentals and hotels in this city than there are homeless people. There are more units available that could be available for essential workers to be housed close to the locations where they work. But they don't want to create any kind of solution for that threatens private corporate interest. They don't want government planning to solve these crises. So the union, by collaborating with this plan and saying, yes, this is exactly the kind of action that we want, is actually collaborating with management and with the government, never solving these problems. And they're making a bad situation much, much worse. Even though there are many of our members who have been highlighting the outrageous conditions in the subway, and they're absolutely right to do so. The solution that they came up with serves de Blasio's interest and serves the NYPD's interest and serves Cuomo's interest and Wall Street's interest, because they don't have to do anything to solve the problem. But it doesn't serve the actual needs that needed to be met. I believe it was, who had the hands up? I'm sorry. It was Wilfredo and Seth. Okay, I'm gonna go to Seth and then Wilfredo, okay? We're good? All right, I unmuted you. You muted yourself again.
Yeah, just a quick point. Listening to this is one of the reasons why it's so important for us all to get together and discuss stuff about social distancing on the buses. We were just in a live stream with some transit workers from Philly just a couple of days ago, which was really enlightening. And one of the things they were talking about, and John can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they were talking about it just as a matter of fact, that on their buses, their instructions now are as if they get to the point where their bus is too full and there's not social distancing, they don't stop to pick people up.
Yeah.
Right. Why isn't that happening in New York? Right. That should absolutely, I mean, the fact that one transit authority in one city is figuring out what to do that's safe and New York won't do it. The same thing with isolating cars, right? They're doing it now in DC. They're doing it Long Island Railroad and Metro North. They're doing it with PATH, and they won't do it with us, right? So they know, and those are, Long Island Railroad and Metro North are both MTA. So they know what the best procedures are now. So we have a smoking gun that Foy and Feinberg want us to die. They just want the service to run. They're okay with us dying because they know what should be done. They know what should be done on the buses, and they're not doing it.
Okay. I'm going to get to Wilfredo Pacheco. Frank, you okay over there? You good? Okay. All right. We're gonna go with Wilfredo, and then anybody else got to raise your hands because we're going to be wrapping up soon. I can't unmute you, Wilfredo. There you go.
Oh, okay. So no, I just wanted to point out the fact that there's going to be, unfortunately, I hate to say this, there's going to be a lot of assaults happening. They're going to shut down the trains. The homelessness and the people are going to be coming to these buses now, and it's going to hit the fan, man. And I just want to just say, everybody, be safe out there, man. Be safe out there riding these buses, man. And if you feel that it's unsafe, keep it moving, man. Pass the stops, keep it going, man. And to go back to the point about going and calling the command center, telling them that you have a packed bus, that they're not practicing 6 feet distancing and things of that nature. Listen, they don't care, bro. You could call them all day, every day, man, but they don't care. It's not, you can't right now tell people not to come in the bus. They're coming in the bus regardless. You're not taking account. You have too many things that you're trying to operate a bus. You're trying to operate a bus safely. And listen, people are coming in the bus and it's packed. That's another thing. Why we didn't have a stipulation as to how many people could actually ride these buses. Why they don't have an amount of people that what is the maximum amount to practice social distancing? Where is the maximum amount of people that can board a bus? If I heard somebody say 30 people, that's too much to be operating a bus in the back. That's too much. So, it's ridiculous that the union did something about the attendance in the doctor's lines, which in my opinion should have been extended until further notice. The doctor's lines stip that we had temporarily, and then now it's reenacted. But they should have continued that a long time ago. That and another stipulation as to how many people could be riding the buses. It's gonna hit the fan. And listen, man, this union has done a horrible job, bro. A horrible job, man.
Okay, thank you, Wilfredo. I see Mike had his hand up. Unmute you now. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, just to touch on the social distancing on the buses. First and foremost, and I'm sure you guys can relate down in subways, the last thing you want to do as the captain of your ship, in our case, the bus, you guys, the train, is to allow somebody that's in a secured office with zero contact with the public to dictate what is safe and good for you.
Right.
This is why it's imperative that, and I'm pretty sure that 9 times out of 10, in that particular scenario, if you would have told the bus command center to send the supervisor to the scene with a safety rule dispute form, they would have told you, okay, just put up the next bus, please, and drop off until your bus isn't as crowded.
Mm-hmm.
As far as a hard number as to how many people should be on the bus, I had put out some literature. We posted it in various groups. Based off of New York's social distancing restrictions, using their protocol, in actual reality, there really shouldn't be more than 10 people on a standard 40-foot bus, and really no more than 15 to 20 on an articulated bus. That's the only way that you're going to be able to have 6 feet between passengers. Standard bus is 10 feet wide, so that's at most one person sitting on each row, and then every 6 feet. Another issue I was going to touch on was the homeless. This is, I don't want to say a unique situation because it's kind of self-inflicted. The governor has had all this time to fund these sorts of programs because inevitably most of the people that are riding the subway that are, yes, they're homeless, but they also have an underlying mental illness issue. Mm-hmm. And there really aren't any programs that are, let's say, not everybody would want to go and be absorbed by the shelter system, particularly a man. It's a crazy system in there. It's kind of like jail.
Yeah, exactly.
And this has been a problem that has been brewing over time, and it's reached its culminating point. And there's nobody else to point the fingers at other than the people that hold the purse strings to these programs. Mm-hmm. When we talk about MTA putting 500 extra police to police the fare, what you're doing is you're basically policing poverty. Absolutely. It's not a crime to be poor.
Absolutely.
It is not a crime to be poor. And with all these resources that they have, they really aren't allocating it towards the proper channels.
Yeah, in fact, just so everybody knows, they actually have deliberately cut the funding to both the shelter system, the mental health, alcohol rehab programs. They've deliberately slashed the funding, and they've created the situation that Mike is talking about. Like, if you're there are homeless families. Everybody has this impression of the single person who's like kind of disconnected from society. There are plenty of homeless families. Do you want to bring your children to a place where they could be robbed or raped? I mean, that's literally the situation, the choice. This is the choice that people are being given. So, like we have to, as workers, have sympathy for that. Like we deal with it every day. We don't want to have to deal with some of the stuff we deal with, but we have to look at the wider picture. And I think Mike did a good job of sketching that out. Do we have further speakers? Because we're going to be wrapping up soon. So, well, we knew Seth was going to want to talk, but anybody else? Sorry, Seth. Roberto, I got you, Ken. I see you.
No, real quick, as far as the number of people on the bus, I'm kind of glad they didn't put out a particular number. They let us use our own judgment, because let's say, for instance, they come up with that 30, then if you don't adhere to that 30, then you probably be open to discipline. So, you have to use prudent judgment. Me personally, like Michael said, anywhere 10, 12, 15, depending, you could gauge how far, like, let's say, for instance, if you're coming to the end of the line and you got the 15, they're going to get off real quick. So that's something you could gauge as you go along the line, but it's anywhere between 10 to 15. And the reason why in Surface we have these crowding issues is because, once again, the VP of Surface was so out of touch, he rushed to go to a Sunday schedule. Now, I know we didn't have the numbers to maintain the school close schedule, but we have a curtailment schedule that was implemented, I believe, after the last snowstorm, right? So this curtailment schedule is for probably things like this. Why didn't they go to the curtailment schedule? Why didn't they go to a Saturday schedule? I believe the Bronx is going to Saturday schedule. Why didn't I talk to a manager, and he told me they could have kept the school closed schedule and then adjust the headways on the line. They have bus track, and they have dispatchers that could see the buses flowing, and they could adjust the headways on the line. But once again, that is because the VP of TA Surface, John Paul Patapio, is out of touch. He don't know what's going on out there, and he's competing with Richie. He's competing with all these other, to make himself look good, to look like a genius. Oh, let me go to the Sunday schedule. Let me one up them. Long story short, the Sunday schedule does not work. you have bigger headways, and that's why we have these numbers. And particular lines carry more, and some don't. But 10 to 15 is the magic number, at least for myself.
Yeah.
Anything past that is bus going out of service.
All right, Roberto, thank you. I'm going to get to Ken, and then I'm going to call on Seth. So Ken, sorry it's been so long, Ken. How you doing?
Well, the revolution continues, sir. I hear this, and I can only say that this is the reason why the system must not be reformed, but it must be dismantled. Many people come to me and they say, Kenny, look, there can never ever be a revolution in New York City transit. The powers that be are too powerful. The people are too messed up, meaning that the members. And I always say, that's wrong. The New York City Transit Authority is ripe for revolution. The bottom line is that the members must open up their mouth and speak truth to power. We already have the tools. We have the contract, we have the rules, we have the bylaws, and we have the Union Constitution. If we were to read them and understand them and begin to hold them accountable, there's nothing that we cannot do. Now, like I said before, we are at the top realm of this revolution. We are doing it intellectually, but if they keep pushing, we keep going down. We'll go to Pesh, we'll go to Burr. Then from there, we'll have lawyers dealing with the Taylor law. We can no longer play in the playground of the MTA. If they keep going down and down and down, it comes to a point where we have to stand up. So I've always asked this question: are members of New York City transit workers, are they so pissed off that they're willing to lose their job over this? If they say no, then you get what you get. But if you stand up like a man or a woman and begin the process of speaking truth to power, you will not know what will happen until you do it. There is no more time for playing games. Over 100 of our people have died. It is time to speak truth to power. If you have to shut the buses down, do it. If you have to close the RTO where the trains themselves cannot run, do it. Why? Every single time we delay an action that is legal, it is what it is. So I am saying one time and one time only. I saw the solution. I don't agree with it. In my opinion, the only solution is revolution. God bless you all.
Thank you, Kenneth. Very well spoken as always. All right, Seth, I'm going to unmute you now. You're out of Facebook jail. I can't unmute you. What's up? There we go.
All right. Yeah, very powerful statement from Ken. And there's a lot there I agree with. And I want to maybe lay some of the groundwork behind it. I'm a revolutionary as well, a socialist. And I think one thing, I want to bring a lot of threads of this conversation together, that one thing that this pandemic has shown, in my view, is that capitalism as a system has failed. And it shows primarily to all of us that us as essential workers, our lives are meaningless to the system, right? I had a quote from The Guardian that is, it's sort of all that stuff about the clapping and the horn, the honking and stuff like that, right? They want to call us heroes, but they want us to die on the job if we have to, right? They don't want to keep us safe. So our labor is essential to capitalism to keep things running. Our health is negotiable and our lives are expendable. And we see it over and over. Capitalism is supposed to be the system that is supposed to be able to produce all this wealth and everything and all these luxury items that we need, right? We didn't have the PPE that we needed. We didn't have the ventilators we needed. We couldn't get the testing up and running that we needed, right? And so now when we're faced with this crisis and we can actually solve these problems, like John was saying, the homeless can all be put in hotel rooms. There's no tourism now. They could all go to hotel rooms, but they don't want to piss off the hotel owners, so they won't do it. They could shut down the subways and the buses and give all essential workers rental cars. They could take over the rental cars like it's a war. This is a war, right? But they won't marshal the resources they need. They won't give everyone with a driver's license. They could give them all parking spots and get them to work or put them in hotels near work, but they won't do that because that's their hotel owners or those rental cars. That's their stuff. And the state can't take that, right? And so we have to realize that as essential workers who are dying by the dozens and now over 100, that it's a war against us. They want that we're expendable. We're cannon fodder for them, to Cuomo, to Foy, to Trump. And unless we start realizing that our enemy is not just this person or that person, but the entire system that wants to reopen again and make profit while essential workers die, then we don't realize that's our full enemy. So, we need to take steps like people have been doing, like I'm trying to do on the G line, like people are doing on the buses, to show workers that we can stand up and fight back. And I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I think also we need to be honest with workers about the scale of the crisis, and that as Michael and Danny and others and Roberto and many others have shown through their own actions, that we can only count on each other, that we can only count on our class. Only our class, only the working class has the interest, has the class interest to actually be for the things that we need being done. And we're the ones that provide the work anyway. We're the ones that provide the services. And, we have a huge opportunity here because there's a window through which working class people can press their advantage, especially essential workers. But there's a right wing rising too. There's outright fascism rising in this country. And, like people laugh about Trump, but Trump has been throwing red meat to these lions and tigers that are growing. And those lions and tigers are right-wing paramilitary, armed to the teeth psychos. And they're occupying other state capitals. I mean, this is a real threat. We have to be conscious of that threat. And we have to build a counterforce. And everything that everybody's been doing is just a step in that process to begin to get us on our feet, to begin to prepare us for the battles to come. Not to be gloom and doom here. The battle is not over. History is never written until our class gets to be counted in that. But the question is, how do we find our voice? And I think Wilfredo is absolutely right. We need to go out to bus depots. We need to provide a united front and back these guys up. And you guys should back us up and back candidates and stations and do that as often as we can while maintaining social distancing. I think would be a very important step forward. Anybody else want to speak? Frank, I can't believe you've been this silent. You sure you don't want to wrap up here? Frank, I don't believe you.
we're on a good topic to tie everything together. The most important thing to preach to our members, any workers of the world, is that the working class is what gels the 99% together. 99% of us work tirelessly every day to provide for our families, to pay the super high rent, the car insurance and everything. If people understand the power of the working class and understand what it takes to stand up and fight the bosses, the dynamic of a worker and boss, employer and employer, has to be clear, and there shouldn't be any middle ground there. The middle ground comes after vigorous discussions and vigorous negotiations. They want one thing, we want the exact opposite.
Right. Absolutely.
The job of the employer is to get as much labor out of you with as little pay. Mm-hmm. Our job is to do as little work for as much pay.
Right.
We have to have that mentality, and we have to understand, and we have to preach that mentality so that people understand that they are being exploited and being taken advantage of. When people feel attacked, they will fight back. And I think that's where I would like to leave it.
Thank you, Frank. I know Wilfredo got to leave shortly. I know we all got to leave. I see Roberto looks like he's tired too. So I'm gonna let Wilfredo say his last words, and then we're gonna check on other people who might want to speak before we wrap up.
Yeah, I just want to give a big shout out to John Ferretti for putting this together, and Seth and Kenneth and everybody. Big shout out to Robert, and I just want to thank everybody for joining in, man. This is one of many, I hope, and hopefully we can all sit down in a conference room in Manhattan that John Ferretti has, and we can all sit down and talk and strategize, man. Because we got to move forward in 2021 and 2022 to bring back this unit to where it needs to be.
Absolutely.
To where it needs to be. So thank you guys for taking your time out to listen, and I'll see y'all soon. Have a great week. Be safe out there, and God bless you all, right?
Okay, thank you, Alfredo. And our door's always open, man. We're always interested in talking to you and hearing.
Yes.
Oh shit. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, see, I was telling you guys not to curse, and now I'm cursing. See, Roberto, you want to say any last thoughts there?
Closing statements.
Yeah, closing statements.
Absolutely. Well, once again, John, thank you again for inviting me to this forum. You know, I like to get my message out to everyone. Like I said, my focus obviously is TA Surface, but I would be remiss if I don't mention my good friend, my brother Tremel Thompson, because even though he's not Surface, he puts in a lot of work and a lot of topics that covers the whole membership. You know, so I'm not, I am not going to forget that. And he shares with me a lot of things that I sometimes miss. So I just wanted to make sure I shout out to him, to Nuke, and to everyone at Progressive Action, my team, you know, but at the end of the day, we all wear blue, we're all transit workers, and we all are forming to get rid of this stand divided regime. And like I said, once again, Michael Enriquez too. That kid puts in a lot of work. Danny puts in a lot of work. The future is going to be good with them. My boy Nassar that picked into Gleason, putting in the work. And anyone that I missed, I'll mention you next time. But thank you again, John. You know, we'll talk again. I look forward to participating in these type of forums again.
And Roberto, we just like to thank you for all the work you've done on the next generation of Local 100.
Yeah, we get it.
Don't be modest. Come on now.
Well, like I said, my thing is I go way back. I seen how things were when they were good. I seen them get shaky, and this state of the union right now is abysmal. It's abysmal. Like I said, I'm speaking mostly for Surface. They're very selfish. They're very self-centered, and they'll sacrifice whomever to make sure they're safe. So I want to bring back some stability to the Surface and pass it to Michael, Danny, Nassar. They're the upcoming stars, and I just want to make sure that when I leave, they take it over, and I'm comfortable that it's in the right direction once it gets into their hands.
Absolutely. Danny, you wanna wrap up here?
I got you.
There you go.
All right. Like he said, I'm thankful for the platform, John and Seth. This is definitely a couple days ago doing the other one with you guys. I know Roberto was supposed to be with me. He let me out, stand by myself, but I'm glad everybody from buses, pretty much we took over more than you guys today.
Okay, that's all right.
That's a good thing. You know, we hopefully next time we bring in other people from other departments, you know, get somebody from a different department, get all those perspectives together. Mm-hmm. Again, thank you for having me on. Hopefully we'll have many more, and we'll keep the information going. It's up to us to get the members involved and make sure they know their rights, where if a supervisor comes up to them, they can say, you know what, no, I'm not going to do that. Give me a safety resolution form, and I'll wait for that. So thank you, and have a good night, everybody.
Thank you so much. And Mike, you want to say any last words here?
I got it. Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure. We had a very great conversation. I strongly believe that education is power, so I'll continue to put out my your right to knows, and from what I see, it's pretty well recepted. Yeah, we just got to keep pushing forward, instill some of those militant union principles back into the bloodline of this union.
Mhm.
And, going forward, we just have to do what we do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. And it'll be far from the last time, you'll be our guest. Okay. Our
All
door
right.
is open. Seth, you want to say goodnight, Gracie?
No, I think that, my last statement was all that I needed. It's just great to get together with everyone. I think this, like I said, RTO and buses coming together is an important part of figuring out a nucleus on how to fight back. We have this struggle just to keep us safe. And then the bigger struggles on, keeping the right wing from reopening the system, putting essential workers at risk again with new waves while all they care about is the profit system coming back. And, and the rise of the right wing with Trump. So we have a lot to fight. And it's good to get started.
Yeah. And I want to make the last word about the people watching. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for taking the time to share these experiences with these very intelligent and very ferocious fighters for working class interest on the job. And, we hope this won't be your last time viewing these live streams. Get in the comments. Let us know what you think. Everybody here who's been a part of this, you can go back and check the comments and respond to people, friend them on Facebook so we can begin to build these connections. It's not about the people who are on screen. It's about the next generation of people who are going to be on screen and on the battlefield with us. Because none of us are, for none of us, I think it's safe for me to say, for none of us is it about ourselves, about our egos, or about who gets elected and who doesn't get elected. It's about what kind of future we're going to have. Thank you so much for everything. Have a great night, guys.
Looks like, does Michael have his hand up? Michael, you want to say one last thing?
Mike, yeah, I'm sorry, my bad.
Sorry. I just wanted to give credit where credit is due. You guys have been doing your thing throughout this pandemic, stepping up to the plate. Definitely Rob, Nas, Danny, Frank, you guys are doing a great job. I definitely want to give a shout out to Richard Thorne from Flatbush Depot. He's always been a tried and true unionist. Tom Brown from Gun Hill Depot, very strong union guy. Donald Yates, very strong union guy. You guys are all greatly appreciated, and you guys have been stepping up amidst this pandemic, even though I understand that there are powers that are kind of pushing you guys aside, but you guys have been on the forefront.
Okay, thanks for setting the record straight there, Mike. I'm sure you got did you get everybody?
No, actually, I did not. Also, I would like to acknowledge Trammell as well. Absolutely. Trammell, as much as people may hate the guy, you have to give him his credit.
Yeah.
It's rather unfortunate that a lot of people focus on the messenger and not the message, particularly when he had released those photographs from the MTA warehouse where they had stockpiled PPE that they were not distributing to the workforce. And, a lot of people were naysayers, and I was reading all the comments from the post, and I can't believe it. Just because this particular person posted this, people want to dismiss it. But no, it's very true. And even if you go back and you read their pandemic policy, they are to have 6 weeks worth of PPE in stock at all times. So it's not far-fetched at all that they would have had that and withheld it.
Well, now, Michael, since Trammell has been mentioned so many times, I feel like I have to say something. That I give Trammell credit for everything he's done to take a step forward to organize members to fight back. I mean, we stood shoulder to shoulder to Broadway. The first contract rally this union held was by union members that me, Trammell, and Canal Gomez, and Evangeline Byers and others mobilized. So, any step that any one of us takes towards fighting the bosses is very much appreciated and must be respected. So, I didn't want everybody else to give him kudos and me to be held silent about it. So absolutely, that's he deserves the respect for any work that he does to actually organize us to fight. Anybody else? Okay. Have a great night. Thank you so much. Thank you
Thanks,
for
everybody.
being with us. Thank you.